Awesome. Okay, y'all. Some of you just got admitted. I'll keep an eye on the waiting room as we go. If you're new to the group, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat with your name and what school you go to. And you can put in what you're studying, but I really want to hear where you want to go abroad. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Sarah. I am the rep for ISA for all of your schools here in Kentucky. If you're new to the chat, I've said a couple of times to go ahead and introduce yourself, put in your name, put in what school you go to, since we have quite a mix here, and then let me know where you want to study abroad. There is also a link that I'm going to put in the chat. Go ahead and fill that out. This is how your universities are entering students for prizes and giveaways. So go ahead and fill that out. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and get started. At any point in this, you can drop questions in the chat. We'll get back to questions at the end. We actually have some alumni with us here in the group as well that you can ask them about their ISA experience. And yeah, we'll go from there. So this is the intro to the ISA presentation, but I'm going to skip over and go right to who we are. So ISA probably doesn't mean much, honestly, when you just hear those three letters. It stands for International Studies Abroad. We are a provider for study abroad programs, which means we're kind of like a third party. We set up programs that your universities work with to have you all go abroad on them. And we're all over the world. I mean, we have 30 countries that we offer. We have regular study abroad programs. We have internships. We have service. We have research, virtual options, and Christian faith-based study abroad. So a little bit of everything. I'm going to go into a little bit of or more detail later in the presentation, but like I said, if you have any questions along the way, definitely go ahead and drop those in the chat. So more about ISA individually, what we do. I kind of already said we are everywhere, but we do everything. Our mantra is to make study abroad easy. So the idea of going and studying abroad can be kind of overwhelming. I mean, I'm from Kentucky myself. I grew up in Owensboro and went to school at UK, and the idea of going abroad was like, my parents were like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? You're not going to go to Europe for a whole summer. But I ended up doing it, and it was kind of difficult on my own, getting a passport and looking at programs and deciding what credit to get. And the nice thing about having ISA with you is we're there from the minute you say, I'm interested in studying abroad, to looking at courses, looking at programs, looking at approved lists from your university, whatever it might be. We're there to kind of help make it simple. I mean, we take you through the visa process. We pick you up at the airport once you land. We get you to housing. You're not going to be alone on our program. The way I used to describe it was, we're hands-on when you want us and hands-off when you don't. So we're there to just make the process a little bit simpler. All right, we're back to participation. So have any of you heard these before? Drop in the chat, yes or no, if you've heard these about studying abroad. Many students don't have the time to go abroad. Only certain majors can study abroad. You can't use financial aid with it. I'm seeing some thumbs up and some yeses. I've heard you can't use financial aid. Yeah. Well, nice thing is, trick question. You can do all of these things. I'll actually go into a little bit more detail throughout the presentation, but those are some things I like to myth bust right at the beginning of a presentation, because we'll work with you on all of those. Now I'm going to switch gears a little bit into why you should study abroad. Just a few reasons here. I mean, it ranges from cultivating your cultural awareness to getting comfortable outside your comfort zone, to forming lifelong cross-cultural friendships. And I would say like family friendships as well. I actually at UK studied abroad in Germany. I lived with a host family who were these old, tiny German grandparents. And to this day, several years later, I still email them back and forth. So you're going to build those relationships with people, the whole time during your program. And that actually goes through whenever you come back. So like I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, we have a couple of alumni in the audience who work for us as global ambassadors, which means they get paid $10 an hour to talk about their time in France or Spain or wherever they went. So we're going to be there for you when you come back as well. All right, I'm going to switch gears into talking about individual programs. Does anybody have any questions right now about ISA, about study abroad in general? No? All right, well, if you have questions along the way or you want to know more, say if I cover something and then I don't go into all the details you want, drop it in the chat and I'll come back to it at the end. So first up, we're going to talk about general study abroad. We have 27 countries available for study abroad, with terms ranging from semester to summer, intensive month, all the way through. J term is, it's like a January term. Your university may not have it, but it's basically during the winter. When you look at winter programs, you may want to look at dates because winter might be a trimester in some locations. So that's something that we will guide you on. And you can do study programs for as little as 3 credits, 3 US credits, which is 1 class, to 18, which is 6 classes. It depends on location and program, everything, but there's a wide variety there. And just know that some programs may be pre-approved by your university. You may have a short list of ISA programs that are already approved, depending on where you go. Bouncing off of that, the Christian Study Abroad program is essentially an add-on. It's a regular study abroad program, but in certain locations, you can actually add on a spiritual component. So in 12 countries, you can link up with a mission mentor. This is a missionary on site wherever you are, in the Czech Republic or in Costa Rica or Italy, various locations around the world, and you help them with their mission. So you're not a missionary, you're not going to be doing their full mission by any means, but this is a way for you to really get involved and develop yourself spiritually, even while you're abroad. And then there is a Veritas course on top of that you will be taking on comparative religions or international missions, like a practicum. So just an option for you if you're interested in any spiritual program abroad. Definitely think Veritas Christian Study Abroad. Now, a little bit different from that is internships. So this is a full-time internship option. These are usually 8-week-long programs. We do have shorter and longer in some terms, such as spring, but usually in the summer, they're 8-week-long. These are available in 11 countries, and you'll be working, usually I think the average is 34 hours a week. It's basically full-time. So these are in countries such as Spain, in Chile, in South Korea. But the nice thing is no matter where you go, they're in English. If you speak some Spanish and you go to Chile, you can always ask to practice your Spanish, but we're not going to expect it. So, and this is in a wide variety of disciplines. So it can range from business to STEM sciences. It can range to even research. We have some health options in some locations, and they do vary on price as well. So London, probably the most expensive city in the world, is going to be more expensive than doing an internship in Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam. So think about your options around the world. We do also have remote versions of internships. We actually had a couple students, I think from UK this past summer, who did remote internships. And they're a little bit different because they are right on your computer, but you'll be doing individual or team-based placements depending on what you choose. But the model's pretty much the same. You get linked up to a business organization that you want to work with. They talk about your strengths. You do projects depending on what they're looking for, and you get our mentorship and career coaching along the way. So keep that in mind as we, we expand on virtual options throughout this. All right, option number, I think we're on option number 4 now, 5, whatever it is, it's a lot. Service learning. We have some locations around the world that offer service learning, and you can do it full-time or as a combo. So say if you're studying abroad next fall and you want to do some service alongside that, you can do a couple of hours a week throughout your entire program. Or if you do it in the summer, you'll do your full academic program first, and then you'll do full service learning afterwards. Or you can just do full-time service learning. So this one is a little bit different from internships in that you may be asked to use the local language. Whether you're in Spain or Peru or Chile, you might be asked to use some Spanish at the intermediate level. If you're in Morocco, they might ask if you have a little bit of Arabic, but they'll definitely work with you on that one. But yeah, I mean, there's options all around with a variety of community sectors as well. I mean, it's important to keep in mind that these are first come, first serve, because we do work with organizations every term who can only take a limited number of people, but it ranges from, human rights to education to health. There's something for everyone around the world. All right, and out of the program types, last but not least is Euroscholars Research. This is it's a pretty niche program. It's a semester long of research. And something I really like to highlight, it's research for all disciplines, including outside of STEM. So usually you think, biology, chemistry, whatever it is. I took German when I was a UK student, and they have options to go and study the Germanic language in Munich, Germany at Ludwig Maximilians Universität. So this is a pretty rigorous program in that you're doing 12 US credits worth of research. You can take a language course on top of that, or a course if they have in English that lines up with the semester. And it does require a 3.4 GPA, but if you know you want to go into a research profession, you need some research before going to grad school, post-grad, whatever it might be, this is a pretty good option to keep in mind. It's definitely unique. All right, any questions so far? I see one from Rachel in the chat. Can the Christian study abroad programs also be approved by my university? Yeah, I mean, always ask. So some of your universities do work with Veritas already. Some of them you may have to petition. It just really depends on where you go. And Rachel, we can follow up individually about that. But yeah, your study abroad offices are most likely to work with you. This is a regular study abroad program with an additional fee on top for that spiritual component, but for the most part, it's a regular study abroad. Any other questions? Or we're going to move on. Awesome. Well, we're almost done with the basics. I do want to address time is on your side. I was a language major in college, so I had all the reason in the world to go abroad. But my little sister is actually finishing up an engineering degree at UK, and she's like, I don't have time to study abroad. That doesn't fit in my schedule. Doing her homework that looks like Greek to me, I don't understand it. But she and I have actually looked at programs that she could do if she was abroad, because we do have short-term programs, or internships would probably work for her, or a couple different options there. So even depending on your major, maybe you meet with your academic advisor to go earlier in your degree plan, or save some gen eds to go later on, or maybe we should just focus on summer. I just want to let you know that you have options no matter what major you have. And usually the shorter the program is, the more budget friendly it is. You will want to weigh whether you can use your financial aid during the semester or during the summer. Most students don't get in the summer. So even though the price tag might be lower, it might be that the semester is a little bit more budget friendly for you. And in terms of financial aid, we'll actually go on to the funding page. ISA will accept all financial aid that your university is willing to release. It may be that you have to get, say, your financial aid office to sign off on something to get it released, or maybe your study abroad office has to send something to them. whatever it is, whatever you can get released, we'll take it to pay for the program. We can actually even set up a payment plan with you if that's what you need to go abroad. We're also understanding, say, if you want to go abroad next fall and your aid doesn't normally come out until September, we will make a note of that, get basically a letter of intent, and defer your payment until that financial aid comes in. And in the meantime, we do offer scholarships. So most likely your university, your study abroad office does have scholarships. I also want you to know to talk to your departments. When I went to Germany, like I mentioned, I just went to the German department and said, hey, is there anything I can apply for? And they just gave me $500 as a grant. So, I mean, it never hurts to go and check. So we have scholarships based on, what type of program you're in. We have some that are need-based. We have some that are merit-based. We have diversity scholarships. Just check out our website and check out, honestly, everywhere you can, and apply for as much as you can before you go. All right, wrapping it up. What's next? Connect with us. You all signed up for the session. I know you're going to be in contact with your study abroad offices, but if you are interested in ISA, this is my phone number, this is my email. I'll send a quick, thank you for joining us after this message so that you can have, my email just readily available, but, start talking to us and talk to your study abroad office, confirm any requirements your university has. Do you have to have a 2.0 GPA? Do you have to be a sophomore? Can you start your freshman year? Find out about using financial aid or scholarships toward a ISA program. Will they let you use your institutional scholarships? Will they let you use, your state grants, your KEYS money, anything like that? And then you should start asking them how credits are transferred back to your home institution. Do you have to do a meeting with each individual department to get classes signed off on? I mean, that's how we had to do it at UK, and it takes some time. So start asking about it now, just so you can start working on all of that. And then last but not least, this is the contact info for all of your individual universities. So I'm going to leave this up. If anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I see that Braun put, is this program only Christian-based? No, we have just the Veritas one that is Christian-based. Within that, it is Christian. I mean, it's in the title. And I will say within that, we're open to all disciplines within Christianity. We primarily focus on Baptist just because that was our original director who was Baptist and his contacts were that. But I mean, we've had, Catholic students, we've had various different types of students. I think we've even had some Jewish students who went abroad with us to a couple different locations. So the Veritas program is an interesting one. Are there recommended programs for pre-med? Definitely. So actually after this, I can follow up with you on, pre-med recommendations. It'll really depend on where you're at, and this goes for any pre-professional, pre-law, pre-farm. It'll depend on where you're at in your program. So, if you've taken Anatomy 101, but you need to take Anatomy 201 or whatever it might be, we'll adjust our course recommendations based on that. Can you request to study a specific university abroad? Definitely. So that is, we'll help you pick a program based on the individual universities abroad. So in Spain, we work in, I think it's 8 cities, and we'll definitely guide you towards, you're a finance major and you can study at these 2 universities, and then we'll just go from there individually. So that next one from Haven Watson, would our UK scholarship still apply if it wasn't offered by UK? That one is going to take a little bit more advising. So that's something that I'll follow up with you individually on Haven. Long story short, and this is applicable to all of you UK students in the audience, Gold Coast is not approved by UK, but that means you can petition. So I won't go into the petition process because it's kind of lengthy. If you're not a UK student, I don't want to bore you all here, but that's something that we can chat about individually if you're interested. And our programs for pre-med, sociology, criminology, or political science, pre-law, sorry. Yeah, we have all of those. I mean, I can even point you towards, say, certain programs that would have more courses than others. I'm thinking we have a really good pre-law political science program in Morocco, and then some in South Africa, as well as several around the world. But that's something that I'll follow up with all of you on. I have the chats where it'll save for me. And yeah, we can talk after this. If you want to follow up individually, definitely. I will do an email after this just so you all have my email. But if you want to start talking, hey, it's never too early. All right, I think I'm caught up on questions. I do want to invite you all, if you have any questions for our alumni that are in here, we do have a couple. They're UK alumni, but they can definitely talk about, you know, what it was like to go on an ISA program. They've been through it. Oh, I see one from Taylor. Do you need to establish a major before you study abroad if you're currently undecided? Not for ISA. Your study abroad office might require that you have a declared major, but I mean, you'll want to know kind of where you're going so you can pick courses. You know, if you think you might declare a finance major, we'll want to guide you towards finance classes, if that makes sense for you all. If you did a semester or longer term abroad, what was the hardest part? Well, I know Cassie did summer programs. Molly, did you do a semester or a summer?
I did fall semester last year. Honestly, for me, the hardest part was leaving after a whole semester because after you're there for so long, you just really become part of the city that you're in. I stayed with a host family, so I got super close to them. The woman that I stayed with, she had 2 grandchildren. So at that point, I just kind of felt like I had like my own little study abroad family over there. So I know it seems very daunting. I was there for 14 weeks, and at the beginning, I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna miss my friends, I'm gonna miss my family, and of course I did. But it's just so new and exciting that I think it's just a lot easier than you would think to be over there for 14 weeks. And it really does go by really fast too.
And Molly, where did you study? I don't think you said it for the group.
Oh yeah, I was in Sevilla in Spain.
Awesome. For those of y'all that are interested in Spain, I mean, Molly went to Sevilla. I actually visited Sevilla myself in December, and I visited Madrid and Granada, where we have programs as well. So it was nice to see those on site. But if you have any questions about those cities, we can always talk individually as well. Okay, from Alyssa, how will COVID affect our ability to study abroad? Good question. And honestly, my answer will probably change in a week. You know, you've seen things changing in the news, you know, on campus. I would say the short answer is it will affect it in that talk with us. You know, ISA and your study abroad offices are the ones navigating, okay, where can you go? What is the university saying? What is available even? We're the ones that are navigating all of that hard work. We do have some short lists that we're hopeful for the immediate future, but in all honesty, if you want to go to a country that's not on our short list, we recommend pushing it back a little bit. If you, say, are a freshman, maybe you look at studying abroad next spring. At this point, I mean, most of you are probably planning to study abroad, say, in your junior year. That's when most students go. And if you're a freshman, that gives us plenty of time to work and adjust based on COVID. But that's a good question, and it's a real one. And you can keep asking us about it as we go. All right, how do you go about staying with a host family versus student housing, and what was studying in another language like? So Molly, you did a host family, and I know Cassie did a foreign language. If both of you want to tackle those questions.
Yeah, I can go first. So I did both. So I was with a host family and also studying in Paris. So that was obviously they're speaking French. It's difficult, I would say, if you have no language background. So I took French in high school and I'm also studying it in college. So I was able to communicate with my host mom, but I know that they typically have kind of a range of host families and their English ability. So my host mom did not speak a lot of English, which was nice for me because I was there to learn French. However, if you didn't learn French prior and you needed someone to help you with English, I know that some of my friends had that experience. I recommend staying in a host family because you get more immersed in the culture. So you're eating the food, you're talking in French all the time, like I was saying. And also you have people looking out for you. So they recommend where to go, where to eat, what to do. Whereas if you're staying in a dorm or just an apartment, then you might not have those types of resources. So I strongly recommend that. Molly, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I mean, my experience was honestly really similar. Obviously, I was in Spain, not France, but I'm studying Spanish, so that was also why I wanted to stay with a host family. And honestly, I think some people can kind of be weary of wanting to go for a host family because they're like, oh my gosh, like, what if I get this super weird family? But ISA really takes care of you, and they definitely like go through all of the necessary steps to make sure that you are being placed with a good host family. All of my friends that were in Spain had awesome experiences with their host families. So if that's something that you're worried about, don't be. They definitely take care of you. I felt super safe with my host family, and like Cassandra was saying, it just really helped me to learn my Spanish even more than just taking it in the classroom. So I would recommend the.
Oh, Molly, you cut up a little bit at the end there, but we heard most of that. Um, I mean, I did host family too, back in my day, which makes me sound a little bit old. And I studied abroad after just 1 year of German. And, I think I would have known less than Cassie would have. But I stayed with a host family that was, patient. I went in and I'm an anxious person, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to mess up all the time. And I did. Like, realistically, you're going to mess up. But my host family was very patient, and they didn't help me with my homework, but when I brought it home the next day with red marks all over it, they patiently explained, what grammar points I had missed and whatnot. And I used to tell this story a lot when I was at UK, but they will playfully tease you and fix your words, and you will never forget. I remember my very first night with them, they asked, what are some differences between Germany and Kentucky? And I told them, I was trying to tell them that the weather is more humid, but the word for humid is schwül with an umlaut, and I wasn't good at umlauts, so I said schwul. I told them that the weather in Kentucky is more homosexual than in Germany. So several years later, have not forgotten that one, and those are the gems that you'll remember from studying abroad. I mean, they made me try food. One was Leberkäse, which translates as liver cheese, but included neither of them. They took me around Bavaria. I mean, those are the things you'll remember after your study abroad program. A lot of the outside the classroom stuff.
Yeah, I think it's also important to look at the financials between host families, dorms, and like private apartments and stuff like that, because there can be some differences in the cost there. I know that for me, a host family was probably the least expensive option because my meals were included, or two usually a day, so it was breakfast and dinner. So aside from the money aspect of it, I also got to try new things and talk to my host mom in French. And I honestly would say that I learned more from talking with her than I did in some of my classes, just because I was forced to stay active and keep communicating.
That's a good point. Most of our housing options in each program are, but some include more, depending on where you go. Like Cassie had 2 meals a day. Some places are meals plus laundry. Usually an apartment doesn't include meals because you're on your own. You have to buy your own food. I mean, when I studied abroad, I was a freshman and I hadn't really cooked for myself at that point. So if you choose the apartment, you might be suddenly cooking with ingredients from a French market, trying to figure it out as you go. So, all right, that's all the questions we have on here. I welcome you all to keep adding questions. I'll definitely do a email at the end to kind of give you all some basics. But yeah, oh, I see one from Dustin. I like the Dustin's thinking in worst case scenario already. So what procedures are in place if tensions between the country you're studying and another worsen? I mean, in general, we do have health and safety. We have 2 full-time health and safety people, and then you'll always have a health and safety phone number while you're there, one based in the US and one based in your home country or host country. I will say, I mean, we've had, say, I think it was a couple semesters ago, there was an incident with North Korea in South Korea, but that's when we really take guidance from South Korea. It was a big deal to us in the American news, but it wasn't to South Koreans on the ground. So, I mean, that's where we really take everything with a grain of salt. Just know you always have us. I mean, most offices, I think at minimum we have 2, maybe 3 people, but larger places like Seoul, we have, I think it's 7 staff members. You'll have US-based access. We get those panicked phone calls from parents to the US-based line, and we get those panicked phone calls from students on the abroad one, and you can always ask us those questions. So long story short, it hasn't been an issue in the past, but it's one we're working on.
Yeah, when I was in Paris, it was the time of the Yellow Vest protests. So there were some protests going on in typically tourist spots. So each weekend, if we were leaving or we were going to be around those areas, they typically had us fill out a form of where we were going to be and who we were going to be with, so that if it did become an issue, then they would know exactly where we were and how to contact us. So I think that's just an extra precaution that they have in place, just in case things get out of hand.
Also, I'll just add to that, when I was in Spain, there was a lot of protests going on because the area of Catalunya is trying to separate from the rest of Spain. So that's kind of over in the Barcelona area. So it wasn't in the city that I was in, but same kind of thing. They just had us filling out forms for every weekend that we were traveling, and they just advised us to kind of stay away from that area as much as we could. But they definitely tried to keep tabs on us and make sure that they were able to help us out if we were trying to go to those areas that were unsafe. So they definitely look out for you.
Awesome. And then the last question I see, how do you go about getting a student visa and how long does it take? Who else is worried about visas? This is like the #1 thing that I hear from students. I see a couple hands. Yeah, the nice thing is you can wait. We'll guide you on when to start the visa process. But I feel like it's one of those things that, I mean, even I worried about it when I was picking a program. But once you get accepted, that's when you can start working on the visa, and ISA will guide you through all of it. Like I know the Japanese visa is extensive. There's a lot of papers that we make you fill out in the application because they're for your visa. And if there's a mistake, Japan will mail it back. They don't email it back, they mail it back. So that's why we go through it with you all. The Czech Republic one is pretty particular as well, but we give you exact dates to do things by. We'll guide you on that. I mean, Italy takes a long time. It's pretty simple, but it's also pretty long. Some countries, like the United Kingdom, you don't actually, unless you're doing an academic year or internship, you don't need a visa because you'll get one for the entire semester once you land there. And that's something we'll evaluate what your program is and guide you as you go. So, long story short, we'll guide you on it and you can do it later, which is nice. Make sure you have a passport though. Most programs don't require that you have a passport at the time of application because you usually have enough time to get it. But some locations like the Czech Republic, which are pretty particular in getting a visa, they do require that you already have a passport. So that's something you can get started on now. The passport is good for 10 years. It usually takes about 6 to 8 weeks to actually get in the mail whenever you've applied for it. So if you're at UK, you do have a passport office on campus. I believe they're doing appointments. I don't know about the other campuses, but usually you can just Google, where to get a passport. All right, if we're gonna try and go abroad in the UK for fall 21, am I able to look at programs and start getting registered now? Yes, you can. So on the ISA website, which I think was on the previous slide. No, well, the website is studiesabroad.com if you just want to look at the ISA website. But we have programs up through all of 2021 right now. So spring, summer, and fall. You can go ahead and start applying. I do want, thank you, Molly and Cassie. I do want to let you know that if you apply for your program, no matter what term, if it's available, you do it in the month of September, the deposit's $21 versus our regular $95. So the deposit goes towards the program price, but you only have to put $21 down this month. You got 2 more weeks. That's a lot of savings, honestly. So if you want to start, maybe you're thinking about going to the UK and whatnot, you can start looking at that now. I can always help you pick a program. And we can also change your program later. So say you're looking at London and then you get closer and you're like, oh, I really want to go to Glasgow instead in Scotland. I'm not really sure. We can also change that on the back end. Super easy. As long as no deadlines have passed, say that it's too late to switch out of London, but it's also too late for Glasgow. As long as they're both open, great, we'll switch it over. Super easy. Oh, thank you, Sarah, for letting me know that I missed a question. I like that y'all are engaging. This is really helpful. A lot of the programs I've seen have only shown apartment and dorms for housing. Is it always an option to study abroad with the host family, even if it's not listed? Unfortunately, no. So some locations we do only have apartments or dorms, or some locations just host family. Each city's a little different, and each one we're very mindful of how we build the programs. So in Granada, Spain, for example, most students go there to learn Spanish. So most of them we want to guide towards host families. But say in Sydney, Australia, you know English, I'm guessing, if you're on here listening to me, so you don't need a host family there. You will get to know a lot of the locals. There's actually some interesting housing options in different parts of the world. I mean, there's a residencia in some of South America where basically there's like I've heard it described as like a house mom, and then you're a student with your own little dorm in there. So you have this senora that comes around and helps you out, and that's what people call her. They'll be like, hi senora, how's it going? In New Zealand, they have shared houses, which is normal for students who study abroad, but there's always a Kiwi, a local New Zealander, in the house. So it's not really a host family by any means, but it is a way to really get involved because you will have that local with you living in the house. So most of our host families are in places where you'll be studying the language, such as Spain and Central and South America and France, which Cassie did. So we have some here and there, but they're not everywhere. Okay, will we have to go through a course laying out the laws of these countries before we go, or is that up to student research? Not a course, you will have an orientation. So in basically your portal where you'll work on your application and submit transcripts and forms, whatever it is, you'll have access to an online orientation. And this ranges from, like local customs to words for certain things. Say, if you're studying in Florence, you don't necessarily have to know Italian for that program, so they'll teach you some Italian a little bit here and there. It also ranges on, I would say, less the laws of the country, but what different perspectives are. We actually have, I'm a member of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for ISA, which means I help with those online orientations to talk about what's it like to be a Black woman in Spain, or what's it like to be queer in South Korea, for example. All of that information is in the online orientation. If you're interested and if it applies to you, it can be pretty important. So we have all of that in the online orientation for you to check out. And you can ask us if there's something in there that you're not certain on, then yeah, we can definitely, since we've been to the cities, I haven't been to all myself, but all of them are covered within ISA. We can always answer some questions along the way. Sarah, I'm loving that you put in all these questions. These are all really helpful to hear. If I have family in the city and I'm located in, am I able to stay with them while I'm abroad? Yes. So, well, I say yes. Your university has to approve it. It is something you can look into. You will see on each individual program page what's called independent housing as an option. This is, it can be pretty enticing because it gives you a program discount equal to the amount of housing, but then you have to find your own. So we really only recommend this if you have family in the area. I mean, I've had a student who, she wanted to study abroad in Athens and her family was from Greece and they had a house. Great, she knew her way around Athens. I've seen too many times students that want to get their own housing in London, for example, which I've heard is the most inflated housing market in the world. You know, it's going to be difficult to get a better deal than our housing just because we have bulk housing for, you know, bulk amounts of students. So, I mean, when in doubt, don't go independent housing route unless you have family already in the area. All right, we got about 15 minutes left if anybody has any more burning questions.
There's also city guides for most places on the ISA website. So if you have an interest in like museums or food and stuff like that, you can look at those and kind of pick a place geared towards those types of things. I didn't know about them before I chose my programs, but I think that they have a lot of good information if you want to look there.
We also have the ISA student blog. Hang on a second and I'll put that link in the chat. This is a blog run entirely by students on the ground. So students that are on their program right now, we have a lot of alumni highlights since nobody's abroad this fall, but I mean, these are all words about the study abroad locations from non-ISA employees. These are from students like you all. So you can even search, there's a search function up in the top right-hand corner. You can search university, you can search Spain, you can search food, you can put in any numbers of topics up there. There is a tag on the side which goes from, you know, we have them organized by countries, but also if you want to just hear from alumni or you want to hear about learning languages or, you know, Veritas Christian study abroad, or even the identity tag, which includes, you know, being a diverse population abroad. There's topics for everything on here. We've had this blog since I think 2013 or 2014 with daily posts, aside from this fall where not as many students are on the ground. So, I mean, there's a lot of topics in there if you want to go back and read some of them. How easy is it to transfer money to the local currency while abroad? Don't worry about it, super easy. If it's complicated for any reason, then we will guide you on it. We used to have a program in Cuba, but we don't anymore, but where students would have to take their money before they go. So if it's anything like that, then we'll guide you on it. Most of the time, I was able to just use my card while I was abroad, go to the local ATM. I had to know those words in German because the English translation wasn't great, but my host family helped me pull out my card or my cash for the week. So let your banks know you're going abroad before you do. There was one girl on my program who didn't tell her bank, and then she was suddenly in, you know, Fürstenfeldbruck, Germany, and they were like, you live in Kentucky, that's not right. So just tell your bank before you go. Cassie, that's a good point. Definitely check out what your card transaction fees are. Now that I'm a little bit older and I have a credit card meant for traveling internationally, there are no foreign transaction fees. So if you're, you know, thinking about getting a credit card, that might be something to look into, and definitely know yours before you go abroad. With the card I had, I think it was a $5 fee or a percentage or something, but I just calculated what the middle of that was, and basically I took out cash for 2 weeks because it was the most cost effective.
Yeah, I was also able to become an authorized user for my parents' card, and then I just gave them money or they took it out of my account or whatever. So it was easy for me to then just use that card, and it was cheaper because there weren't any foreign transaction fees as well.
Another just a little pro tip, Capital One is usually really good about not having foreign transaction fees. So I was able to open up, my sister had gone abroad before me, so she kind of passed that tip along to me. But it's super easy to open up a Capital One debit card, and I had 0 transaction fees with that. So that's a helpful tip.
You know, some of your best tips come from alumni who've been on these programs. If you want to get connected to an alum from who studied in a certain location, reply to that email I'm going to send out and let me know. I mean, Cassie and Molly have only been to certain places, but we have other global ambassadors on other campuses who might not be able to talk about what it's like to be a Northern Kentucky student going to or going abroad in general, but they can talk about what it's like studying in, I don't know, Bangkok, Thailand. Wherever you're interested in, we can connect you with someone who's been there, been on the ground, who can really, help you with those tips and tricks. Because foreign transaction fees will stack up fast,
Yeah. Something that I was worried about before I went abroad was if ISA would be concerned about me going other places while I was there. So I had a friend who was in Madrid and we wanted to meet in Italy. So I didn't know if I had to tell people or how that was going to work. But typically you just have to tell your program manager, mine was in Paris, obviously, where you were going and who you were going to be with. But other than that, they weren't hesitant to like let you go, and you didn't have to tell anyone really what you were doing and all that. So just a tip.
Yeah, the unfortunate caveat is with COVID, we will care a little bit more, just because we're keeping an eye on, say if you study in an EU country and you go to a non-EU country or you cross a border, you have to do a quarantine, we'll brief you on all of that. Yeah, so when I say, plan further out, it's more likely that things will go back to normal. But right now, we're encouraging students to take advantage of your home country. So like I say, I went to Spain, I mentioned in December, and you could easily spend the entire semester just going from Madrid to Granada to Valencia to Barcelona to Bilbao to all the different areas. So, I mean, we'll keep in touch on, what the requirements are. Should you travel? Can you travel? But yeah, just know that if you have any questions, I mean, we're here. That's going to be the bottom line of it. Whether you have questions in the application process or once you get on the ground, you'll always have somebody to ask. All right, y'all, 10 minutes left. I'm going to hang out till the end. You're welcome to keep putting questions in. But yeah, I think we've covered a lot. This has been really helpful. Thanks, Haven, for joining. If you all did put individual questions in here that, I didn't expand on fully, like I said, I'll reach out to everyone, but I can give you all an answer. Elena, how easy or difficult is it to keep in contact with family at home when you're abroad? Molly or Cassie, you want to jump in there?
Depending on where you are, obviously the time change will be probably the biggest constraint. But everywhere that I was, because I traveled around a lot on the weekends too, I just had an international phone plan, and then it was never really an issue. I was always able to have enough service or even Wi-Fi to FaceTime or call my family back home. So really, you just kind of have to get used to the time change. But after that, I probably talked to my mom, for example, like 3 times a week, and it worked out really nicely.
You can also use web-based apps. So like WhatsApp is one that I used, and also like your Snapchat and stuff will work too. But if you do have a foreign SIM card, then you won't be able to get text messages. So like if you have an iPhone, anything that would have been green won't come to you, but your iMessages will still work, if that makes sense, because it's like internet based.
If you have an Android, definitely check out WhatsApp, because our text messages are not internet based like iMessage. But that's a good point. I mean, and keep in mind the time zone, like Molly said. I think it was my 3rd day in Germany, 3rd or 4th. I just wanted to hear somebody speak English, like, because I had been speaking German for 72 hours at that point, and I had a headache, and I wanted to talk to my mom. And I called her I got out of class at about 1:30 p.m. I remember, because it was 6:30 in the morning for her. And she normally gets up around 7 for work, but I felt bad that day if I had just waited an extra half hour. You can get apps on your phone to let you know what time zones are, just so you don't wake up your mother at 6:30 in the morning like I did. Josie, when will programs for 2022 be available? Pretty soon. So they tend to come up on our website about a year before they go. So 2022 programs for the spring, I'm guessing, will be up Usually it's around October, November, when you can start applying for those. I'm not the one who preps those for the website, but I know they're being prepped now and they'll go live altogether. So pretty soon. If you are enrolled in a program right now that you want to defer till that next year, just let us know and we can always defer that internally on the system. But all right, I know if you travel abroad regularly, you can save the receipts and get taxes back on them because you don't live there. Can we do that as students as well? That is not a question that I know. That is something for, you know, an accountant to help you with. It doesn't hurt to keep your receipts if you can get any, you know, taxes back by any means, but since that's more of a legal question, that's something you'll have to ask an accountant when tax season comes around.
I do know that there's some countries where, like, in the airport, like, you can go to, like, the duty free, or I think it's called. And if you, let's say you bought a purse in France and then you take your receipt when you're in the airport going back to wherever you're going back to from France, there's different, like, little kiosks and stuff that they can take care of that there. I never personally did it, but I had some friends that did that.
It's not something I ever did myself either, and I've been abroad several times, so this is where it's nice to hear from alumni who have these stories. All right, y'all, does everyone feel a little bit better knowing what your options are? Yeah, I see some nods. I know this was the basics. Each program is going to be a little bit different when you get down into the weeds, down into the eligibility and the courses that are available. So like I said, bottom line, you know, email me back. If you want to talk to alumni, you want to get courses matched, we do actually have, I don't have the link readily available, but I can include it in that email. We do have a course matcher form. So you can put in, we recommend the full name of your course, but you put in, I don't know, international finance, and we'll match you with the programs that offer it abroad. Make sure you put in that full name, because if you just put finance 400, then I don't know what that is at each university. I don't even know what that is at UK, and I went there. So just put in that full name, and then we can really dig into, you know, what courses are available where, because you'll always want to think like 3 things go into picking a program. What courses can you take? What location is it? Because we want you to be happy where you are. And then what's the price and how, like, what funding can you get? So start with courses. That's probably going to be the harder one. And we can take it from there. Y'all kept me talking for a whole hour. That was great. That was a lot of really good questions. So, I mean, I've said it a billion times already. I will email you all after this. If you have any questions, respond back to me. Whatever the request is, there's not going to be any dumb questions. And just let me know. Yeah, we're here to make it easy, so let me do the digging for you. Otherwise, have a good rest of your day. I know the fair goes on for a couple more hours and through the rest of the week. So, yeah, go get that information. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. Will I send the course transfer feature an email? Yes, definitely. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Awesome.
I just wanted to stay on and ask you about tabling real quick.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So
let me stop recording real quick.
Okay.